I want to begin with a moment. Years ago, I stood in my kitchen holding a cup of tea that had long since gone cold. It was 2:17 in the morning. I hadn't slept. My heart was aching in a way I didn't know how to name yet. I'd just gotten off the phone with someone who, if I'm being honest, had made me feel small for years. Not in overt ways, not with shouting or violence, but with tiny jabs, with indifference, with manipulation wrapped in politeness. You know the kind I mean. The ones who smile when they belittle you. And that night, something in me shifted. I didn't explode. I didn't lash out. I didn't even defend myself. I just stood there, staring at the sink, and whispered to myself, I'm done. Not angry, not dramatic, just done. And let me tell you something. That one decision changed my life. So today I want to share something with you, not as a coach or expert, but as someone who's walked through the fog of self-doubt, the guilt of people-pleasing, and the exhaustion of giving toxic people space they never earned. Here's the truth. If you do this one thing, truly, deeply, toxic people will never bother you again. Let's walk through it together. If this message stirs something honest or tender in you, share it. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let's keep showing up for each other, imperfect, brave, and willing to grow together. That night in the kitchen wasn't loud. There was no fight, no storm of words, just silence. The kind that echoes after you finally realize you've been sacrificing little pieces of yourself for far too long. I wasn't crying, but something in me was breaking quietly, like a rope that had held too much weight for too many years and had finally frayed beyond repair. It's strange how subtle that moment was. No grand gesture, no dramatic declaration, just a tired breath, a whispered truth. I'm done. And what I was done with wasn't just the person on the other end of the phone. It was the decades of doubting my gut, the habit of biting my tongue to keep someone else calm, the practiced smile I wore even when my chest felt tight and my spirit felt small. I was done betraying myself, and I didn't even know, in that moment, how deep that betrayal had run. See, toxic people don't always come dressed as villains. Sometimes they come as family, as friends, as lovers who say all the right things and do all the wrong ones. They're not always easy to spot, because for many of us, we've grown up in environments where we were taught to tolerate dysfunction as normal. We called it love. We called it loyalty. We called it being strong. But strength isn't swallowing your needs. And love isn't supposed to hurt like that. That night, without knowing it, I made the quietest and most powerful decision of my life. To stop abandoning myself for the sake of keeping someone else comfortable. To stop choosing peace for others while creating war inside my own heart. You know what I learned? Self-abandonment is subtle. It disguises itself as being the bigger person, as being mature, as keeping the peace. But every time we ignore that pit in our stomach, every time we override that little voice saying, this doesn't feel right, we are saying to ourselves, your feelings don't matter. And when we say that to ourselves long enough, we teach other people to say it too. So when I say that this one thing will make toxic people stop bothering you, I'm not offering some magic script or a perfect comeback. I'm offering something braver, something quieter, something more permanent. You make a sacred vow to yourself. I will no longer participate in relationships that ask me to betray my own soul, not just in words, in energy, in how you show up, in how you stop laughing at jokes that hurt, in how you say no, even when your voice shakes, in how you no longer explain your boundaries to people who never respected them in the first place. That's where the shift begins, not in confrontation, not in revenge, not in proving your worth, but in the moment you finally realize you've always been enough, and you never had to bleed to prove it. There was a time when I believed that being a good person meant being endlessly available, that kindness was measured by how much of myself I was willing to give, no matter the cost. I confused love with sacrifice. I thought empathy meant absorbing other people's pain, even if they never did the same for me. So I kept saying yes, even when I was tired, even when I was hurt, even when something inside me whispered, "This doesn't feel right." I said yes because I didn't want to be seen as cold. I didn't want to be the bad guy. I didn't want to lose people, even the ones who were slowly draining me. And toxic people, I've learned that they are dangerous and often the ones who are slowly draining me. And toxic people, they know how to find the ones like that, the ones who will second guess themselves before setting a boundary, the ones who will keep the door unlocked even after it's been slammed in their face. But here's the truth I had to learn, gently, painfully, and over time. Not everyone deserves access to you. That sentence changed my life. See, just because someone has known you for years doesn't mean they truly know you. I know, you know, you all know, I know. Not everyone deserves access to you. That sentence changed my life. See, just because someone has known you for years doesn't mean they truly know you. Just because someone is related to you doesn't mean they're entitled to you. And just because someone wants your time doesn't mean they've earned it. There's this quiet revolution that begins inside you when you finally realize you are not a community center. You are not an open door. You are a sacred space. Your heart, your time, your energy, those are limited, precious, and powerful. And not everyone should be allowed to touch them. And this is a question that runs through all of life. And not everyone should be allowed to touch them, especially not those who only show up to take, to guilt, to manipulate, or to dim your light when it shines too brightly. One of the most loving things you can do for yourself is to redefine what access means. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or cut people off out of spite. It means you become intentional. You stop answering calls from people who only call when they need something. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided to misunderstand you. You stop inviting people into your life who leave you more anxious than you were before they arrived. And here's something else no one tells you. The moment you begin doing this, some people will get angry. Some will call you selfish. Some will act like you've changed. And they're right. You have changed. You've started protecting the parts of you they used to trample without consequence. And that is not selfish. That is self-respect. I once heard someone say, "You don't set boundaries to control others. You set boundaries to protect yourself." That stayed with me. Because boundaries aren't about punishment. They're about clarity. And clarity is love. You can still wish someone well from afar. You can still hope they heal without handing them a seat at your table. You can still love them and keep the door closed. And that's okay. That's more than okay. That's growth. That's wisdom. That's how you stop toxic people from bothering you. Not by changing them, but by no longer letting them live rent-free in your mind, your time, and your emotional life. You get to choose who has access to you. You always have. You just forgot. It's time to remember. This next part isn't easy. It's not the kind of truth you can dress up and make pretty. It's the kind that sits heavy in your chest when you're lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why you let it go on for so long. And the answer, if we're being really honest, usually lives somewhere deeper than we want to look. Because once the toxic people are out of your life, once the noise quiets down and the chaos starts to fade, there's a silence. And in that silence, the real work begins. That's when the mirror shows up and you're asked, not by anyone else, but by your own soul. Why did I keep letting that happen? Why did I tolerate the disrespect? Why did I apologize for things I didn't do? Why did I make myself so small just to be loved by someone who didn't even know how to love me? It's one of the hardest questions you'll ever face because it turns the light inward. But this isn't about blame. This isn't about shame. This is about finally getting to the root. And for most of us, that root begins in a place we rarely revisit. Childhood, adolescence, early love, early wounds, a time in our lives when someone made us feel like our needs were too much, our voice too loud, our presence too inconvenient. Maybe it was that first heartbreak that taught you to perform for affection, because just being you wasn't enough. We carry those moments, sometimes without even realizing it, and they become the blueprint for what we think we deserve. So when someone toxic shows up later in life, with charm, with power, with all the right words, and then slowly starts to erode our self-worth, we don't always recognize it as danger. Sometimes heartbreak feels familiar. Sometimes dysfunction feels like home, and so we stay. We try harder. We over-explain. We forgive things that shouldn't be forgiven, not because we're weak, but because there's a little part of us still trying to prove something, that we are lovable, that we are worthy, that if we just do everything right, maybe this time they won't leave. But here's the bold, beautiful truth you deserve to hear. You never deserved it. Not then, not now, not ever. You didn't deserve the silence. The gaslighting, the guilt trips, the cold shoulders, the manipulation, the conditional love, none of that was your fault. You were just trying to survive the best way you knew how, with the tools you had at the time. And that version of you, the one who stayed too long, the one who kept trying, the one who swallowed their voice and wore the mask and begged for breadcrumbs, they were doing their absolute best. So before you can fully let go of the toxic people, you have to do something even more important. You have to forgive yourself. Not because you were wrong, but because you were hurting, because you were still learning, because you hadn't yet remembered the truth of who you are. Healing from toxicity isn't just about walking away from the wrong people. It's about walking toward the parts of you that thought you needed to earn what should have been freely given. That's the work. That's the heart of it. Not just saying they were toxic, but also gently asking yourself, what made me think I had to accept that? And then looking that old story in the eye and rewriting it. You are worthy of love that doesn't require you to disappear. You are worthy of safety without strings attached. You are worthy of safety without strings attached. You are worthy of relationships where peace is the norm, not the reward. So let the toxic people go. Yes, but don't forget to take the time to meet the version of you who thought they were all you could get. Because when you heal them, that's when everything changes. There comes a quiet moment in healing when you realize you're not angry anymore. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not rehearsing what you'll say if they text or imagining how you'd respond if they suddenly apologized. You're just done. Not in a bitter way, in a clean way, a whole body, soul deep release. That moment doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly. One morning you wake up and notice that you don't feel anxious when you see their name. You don't brace yourself when someone mentions them. You don't carry their voice in your head like a judge on your every move. That's what emotional freedom feels like. That's what healing becomes. Not a fight, but a return. And the more you return to yourself, to your calm, your truth, your peace, the more the world around you shifts. The things that used to trigger you, they don't stick anymore. The people who once poked at your insecurities, they feel distant, irrelevant, like background noise in a life you no longer live. It's not that toxic people stop existing, it's that your energy no longer entertains them. Your vibration, the one you now carry after choosing yourself, after standing your ground, after healing your wounds, it becomes like a language they no longer speak. They don't know what to do with someone who isn't apologizing for existing. They don't know how to manipulate someone who's no longer afraid of being misunderstood. They can't control someone who no longer needs their validation. That's the unspoken power of doing the inner work. You don't have to block, chase, argue, or defend. You just become. You become someone who is so deeply grounded in self-respect, in peace, in quiet confidence, that the people who used to throw you off balance no longer know where to find you. That the people who used to throw you off balance no longer know where to find you. It's like a radio frequency. Toxic people operate on chaos, control, fear, and guilt. But once you start tuning into calm, clarity, truth, and love, their signal can't reach you anymore. You're simply not available in the same way. You stop laughing at jokes that belittle others. You stop answering late-night texts that feel like emotional fishing hooks. You stop showing up for conversations where you already know you'll leave feeling worse. You no longer need to react because you've remembered your power. And let's be real, this transformation won't always be celebrated. Some people will say you've changed. And they're right. You have. You've changed the story you tell yourself. You've changed the way you respond to red flags. You've changed the kind of love you believe you deserve. You've grown so deeply into your worth that the old version of you wouldn't recognize you. And that's a beautiful thing. There's this kind of fierce grace that shows up when you stop trying to fix toxic dynamics and instead transcend them. You walk away not in spite, but in sovereignty. Not in anger, but in self-respect. You let them go, and then you rise. Higher than you ever thought possible. Because once you know what peace feels like, you'll never settle for chaos again. Once you feel what it's like to be your own protector, your own advocate, your own steady ground, you'll never again beg someone else to treat you with the care you now give to yourself. And in that rising, toxic people will find that the version of you they used to feed on is gone. Evolved. Elevated. Untouchable. In the best, softest way. You didn't just survive. You alchemized. And that, more than anything, is what keeps them from ever bothering you again. There's something I need to tell you. Something no one really prepares you for when you start this healing journey. When you begin choosing yourself over toxicity, truth over performance, peace over pleasing. You are going to be misunderstood. Not might, not maybe. You will be misunderstood by people you love. People you once trusted, people you shared chapters of your life with. And sometimes that misunderstanding will hurt more than the toxicity ever did. Because here's the paradox of becoming emotionally whole. You start to live in truth, and truth isn't always popular. You'll be called selfish for setting boundaries. You'll be told you've changed, with a tone that sounds more like an accusation than an observation. You'll be seen as too sensitive, or too much, or not the same anymore. The truth is, 80% of America, the vast majority, don't tell, and 10% have some difficulty with motions. It's not the same as America used to be. You'll be called selfish or setting boundaries, and you may feel executed, or not the same as America used to be. You'll be called selfish or setting boundaries. You'll be called selfish or setting boundaries. And you may feel, and in some ways they're right, you aren't the same anymore. Because the person you used to be, the one who smiled through discomfort, who over-explained herself, who tolerated disrespect in the name of love, she's gone. In her place stands someone who has learned how to be honest, how to be sovereign, how to stop apologizing for needing space, for wanting peace, for choosing herself. But what no one tells you is that letting go of toxic people is only half the battle. The other half is letting go of the need to be understood by them. Because toxic people don't leave quietly. They rewrite the story as they exit. And in that story, they're often the hero or the victim, but never the villain. You might hear that you were the problem, that you were cold, that you were controlling, that you changed. And the ache of that, it can be excruciating. Because as human beings, we are wired for connection, for being seen, for belonging, and being misunderstood, especially by someone you once loved, can feel like exile. But hear this, You do not need to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Their story about you, that's their story to carry, not yours. Your job now is to live in alignment with your values, your integrity, your truth, even if it means walking alone for a while, even if it means being the bad guy in someone else's narrative. Even if it means closing the chapter with no apology, no closure, no grand explanation, because your peace is not up for debate. You no longer owe anyone your suffering just so they can feel comfortable. You no longer need to twist yourself into a softer shape to avoid being labeled difficult. You no longer have to perform for a love that never truly saw you. You get to disappoint others in the name of not disappointing yourself anymore. You get to walk away gracefully, quietly, powerfully from anyone who thrives off your confusion or pain. And you get to hold your head high, even when no one claps for you, even when your voice trembles, even when the loneliness creeps in. Because this is the moment you reclaim your dignity. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to be true to your heart, your healing, your sacred becoming. And when you learn to live with the fact that some people will never understand why you had to leave, why you had to grow, why you had to become someone they could no longer manipulate, that's when you're free. Toxic people stop bothering you, not because they changed, but because you finally stopped needing them to understand. You traded their approval for your own truth. You stopped explaining, you stopped negotiating, you stopped waiting to be seen, and decided to see yourself instead. And that is when everything changes. Because when your peace matters more than their permission, toxic people lose their grip on you forever. So what's the one thing to do if you never want toxic people to bother you again? Decide, fully, tenderly, and permanently, that you will never again betray yourself to keep someone else comfortable. Determine who you will be and decide fully, tenderly, and permanently that you will never again betray yourself to keep someone else comfortable. That decision will rearrange your relationships. It will cost you people. It will disrupt old patterns, but it will give you back. And that is the most powerful thing you can reclaim in this life, your own soul, unedited. So take your hand to your heart right now. Breathe deep and repeat after me. I release what is not mine to carry. I return to myself and I rise in peace. You are worthy, you are strong, and you are allowed to walk away from anything that asks you to be less than who you are. If this moved you, if it sparked something in your chest, stay with this channel. We're building something real here. Subscribe, comment, share it with someone who needs it, and keep walking home to yourself. You are not alone, and you never have to be less to be loved.